These are not experiments or forecasts. They're 8 real situations where AI shifted the outcome, not by replacing people, but by influencing the decisions they made when it mattered most.
A doctor sent him home. Grok flagged the pattern they missed.
When the emergency room discharged him, it felt definitive. A Reddit user known as u/Teichgen had gone in with severe abdominal pain. After evaluation, he was sent home with acid blockers. No CT scan, no escalation. The assumption was that it wasn't serious. But the pain didn't stop. Alone and still worried, he opened Grok and described his symptoms in detail. The response wasn't cautious or vague. Grok flagged appendicitis and, more alarmingly, the risk of a perforation. It told him to return to the hospital immediately and demand a CT scan. That decision changed the outcome. When imaging was finally done, doctors found a near-ruptured appendix. He was rushed into emergency surgery before it could fully perforate and become life-threatening. The AI didn't perform the diagnosis in a clinical sense. It didn't override a doctor. What it did was reframe the situation with enough urgency that the patient felt justified pushing back against a system that had already dismissed him. The unsettling part isn't that AI saved his life. It's that without it, he likely would have trusted the original answer and gone to sleep with a ticking clock inside him.
He let Claude Code read his WhatsApp, and it quietly replaced his daily work.
A man on LinkedIn described how he had switched to Claude Code Max and started building automations that quietly took over parts of his daily life. One of them connected directly to his WhatsApp. Instead of manually opening messages, scanning conversations, and deciding what needed action, he set up a system that checked messages on a schedule. It looked for specific patterns and triggers. When it found them, it acted. In one example, the system identified a message from his vet about a supplement his corgi needed. It logged the information, coordinated follow-ups, and synced with other tools, without him having to intervene. This wasn't enterprise software. It wasn't replacing a department. It was replacing attention. The work didn't feel important enough to automate until it was gone. And once it was gone, there was no reason for a human to do it again. This is how labor disappears now, not in layoffs, but in silence. A task stops asking for you, and one day you realize it hasn't needed you for weeks.
An AI image triggered a $100 billion market dip.
In 2023, an image began circulating online that appeared to show an explosion near the Pentagon. It spread quickly across Twitter, now X. The image looked plausible. Accounts reposted it. Algorithms amplified it. And for a brief moment, markets reacted as if it were real. Stocks dipped. Roughly $100 billion in market value evaporated, temporarily. Then came the correction. Journalists traced the image. It was AI-generated. No explosion, no attack. Just a convincing fabrication that moved faster than verification. The market recovered, but the moment lingered. This wasn't a coordinated disinformation campaign. It wasn't state-sponsored propaganda. It was a single image that existed in the gap between appearance and confirmation. The consequence wasn't panic in the streets, it was something quieter. The realization that belief now forms fast enough to move money before truth has time to catch up. The robot lawyer won thousands of cases. Then regulators stepped in. Joshua Browder's project, Do Not Pay, was marketed as the world's first robot lawyer, promising to automate the fight against parking tickets and big corporations. The company claimed a 64% success rate, winning 160,000 cases through AI-generated letters. But as the project expanded into high-stakes legal work like prenuptial agreements and small claims, regulators stepped in. In early 2025, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, finalized a settlement with Do Not Pay. The FTC alleged the company failed to test the accuracy of its chatbot's legal advice and never actually employed or retained human lawyers to review the AI's work. Do Not Pay was ordered to pay $193,000 in monetary relief and was banned from calling itself an AI lawyer without evidence to back it up. The robot lawyer didn't replace the legal industry. It served as a case study in why human gatekeeping is still required to protect the public from algorithmic errors. 3 seconds of audio nearly cost her $50,000. In Scottsdale, Arizona, Jennifer DeStefano answered a call from an unknown number and heard her 15-year-old daughter Brianna crying and pleading for help. A man took over the call and claimed he had kidnapped her, demanding a $1 million ransom, later dropping it to $50,000. He threatened that if DeStefano called the police, he would harm the girl and drop her in Mexico. DeStefano never doubted it was her daughter. The voice captured Brianna's unique sobs and inflection with startling accuracy. The ordeal only ended when her husband confirmed Brianna was safe at home in bed. Scammers now need as little as 3 seconds of audio, often taken from public social media clips, to clone a voice. When DeStefano tried to report the crime, police dismissed it as a prank call because no money was lost and no physical kidnapping occurred. For DeStefano, the trauma was real, a reminder that in the age of AI, hearing is no longer believing. An 18-month illness ended after one ChatGPT question. For 18 months, a woman lived with a chronic, non-stop cough. Her daughter, Shreya, watched as she consulted with top specialists across multiple disciplines, including allopathy, Ayurveda, and homeopathy. No treatment worked. Eventually, her health deteriorated to the point of internal bleeding, and doctors warned the family the condition could be fatal within 6 months if not resolved. Out of desperation, Shreya turned to ChatGPT and described her mother's symptoms in detail. The AI didn't just list possibilities, it asked a specific question. Is she on BP medication with this ingredient? It flagged a known yet overlooked side effect of blood pressure medication. Shreya took the suggestion to her doctors, who confirmed the AI was correct. After changing medications, her mother began to heal. It wasn't about superhuman insight. It was about a pattern missed by overwhelmed specialists being caught by a tool that never gets tired. The AI didn't replace medical authority. It redirected attention to something that had been overlooked. And for the patient, the difference wasn't theoretical. It was the end of an 18-month problem that had quietly reshaped her daily life. A lawyer trusted ChatGPT. The court wasn't amused. In New York in 2023, an attorney turned to ChatGPT for help with a personal injury case against the airline Avianca. The AI provided 6 case citations that looked legitimate, including Varghese versus China Southern Airlines and Shaboon versus Egyptair. Schwartz, a veteran lawyer with 30 years of experience, submitted them to federal court, unaware that every single case was a complete fabrication. When the court challenged the cases, the legal team doubled down, submitting purported full-text copies of the opinions that were also hallucinated by the AI. Judge P. Kevin Castell found that the attorneys had acted in bad faith for their failure to verify the research and for making misleading statements. The attorneys and their firm were sanctioned and forced to pay a $5,000 fine. The case, Mata versus Avianca, became a definitive warning. In high-stakes systems, Convenience is no substitute for human accountability. AI demand is directly raising smartphone prices. For most people, AI's influence doesn't show up as a conversation, it shows up as a cost. Behind the scenes, AI data centers are consuming massive amounts of high-performance memory, the same RAM used in smartphones, the same components produced by companies like Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. As AI workloads exploded, memory supply was redirected. Chips that once went into consumer electronics were now prioritized for servers running large-scale models. Analysts began issuing warnings. This wasn't temporary. By 2025 and 2026, higher smartphone prices were expected, not because phones were becoming radically better, but because the components inside them were becoming harder to justify selling cheaply. Consumers didn't vote on this shift. They didn't opt into it, yet they would feel it at checkout. This is AI changing reality indirectly, not through intelligence, but through market gravity, a reallocation of physical resources driven by invisible demand, where the cost of progress is paid by people who never asked for it.